I had a list at some point, and then I just kind of started going off and rambling. Hey guys, it's Amanda, and today I'm starting a mini-series for the study abroad experience. I'm going to be talking to you guys about my experience. If you don't already know, I'm currently in Valencia, Spain. I'm just really excited because this has been seriously the best time of my life. I've learned so much about myself and about the city and about life, and it's just it's been a really powerful experience, and we're going to talk about that. Studying abroad for me has, one, expanded my horizons crazy much. I've been lucky enough to travel a decent amount in my lifetime. I've been to a bunch of countries pretty much by myself, so I personally didn't have, I think, as much of this experience as a lot of other people did. It forces you to be independent and to do things for yourself. As long as you're doing something, you're learning something. You're just gonna learn so much about yourself. You're gonna be put in so many weird situations that might be so common in the United States and you would never think twice about, but having to think about how to say it in a different language or explain it to someone or ask for what you want can be like a little traumatic, and then once you do it, it's definitely worthwhile. You're gonna learn a lot of life skills that you can absolutely transcend into the real world, into your adult life, and further. You're gonna learn how to be a free thinker, you're problem solving, you're gonna learn how to communicate with other people, regardless if you speak the language or not. You're gonna be so much more observant just because you feel like, at least in the beginning, you're gonna feel a little out of place, like you don't quite belong. After you get over that initial feeling, and even during that time, you're gonna constantly be just like watching people, observing them, and maybe not saying anything, maybe saying something, maybe asking questions, but either way, you're gonna be learning so much just by watching a separate, different culture. And I've definitely been people watching for quite some time now. I do that a lot. Other life skills you'll learn how to be a good navigator, you'll learn how to like book flights for yourself, plan efficiently, to pack efficiently. Those are super important things that I've learned how to do, and I'm really thankful for them. I feel really like pro at them now. You're gonna learn how to use public transportation, which is a huge thing in Europe. You just learn all these skills that you never had to do before, and if you've done them before, great, but it's just different in a different society. Being in a different country, no matter where you go, if you speak English and you go to England, you're still gonna learn so much about that culture. As similar as it might be to the States, it's not the States, it's not where you're from, it's a different place. If it's urban, if it's rural, if it's suburban, it's whatever, it's a totally different place than you're used to, and therefore it's gonna be a totally different experience for you. You're gonna grow and you're gonna have so much more cultural awareness. I think it's beautiful to learn about a totally different culture, and truthfully, it brings like tears to my eyes. I really have had such a great experience here, learning about the Spanish culture, learning about the history and the architecture and the art and the government, even politics. I've like dabbled into a little bit, and that's like interesting. You just have so much more awareness and of global matters in general, just because you're not at home, so you're learning about things from a different perspective. It's just so different that you can't help but kind of change your mindset a little bit. You have to, because otherwise you're just not, like living, you're just staying. You have to really be fully inclusive of your experience to have a good experience. I think you'll just have so much more of a worldly perspective. You'll have seen so much more of the world and thus have a worldly perspective. This experience has made me learn a lot about myself. I've had so much time to be reflective of myself. I feel like especially the culture here, which I will talk about separately of this video, has really influenced my view on things and has given me a different perspective to look at what I find are my problems. What do I really hold important to me. What are my values, core, like fundamental values? This experience has really made me reflect on my life a little bit, made me reflect on the person I am, what's important to me. All this time by yourself is just you and your thoughts. So I think that it's really powerful, especially when you're in a totally new place, you have no connections, you have no prior knowledge of these places that you're going to, that really forces you to think about your life, think about what you really care about. So being a university student is the perfect time to study abroad because truthfully, yes, college is stressful. Yes, it is more work than we were used to in high school. And yes, it's more independence and more money and all this stuff. But I think study abroad even like ups that one more, puts you in a different place, and then you're truly by yourself. Like, I go to a state school, so I was never super far away from home. I was maybe an hour and a half from my house. So being in a separate country all the way over yonder, you just gain so much more. I think you're just put in situations, even common situations, that you'll never be put in again. Having to communicate your issues, your concerns, your questions, and then you're really having to do it for yourself. No one's gonna walk you through this. Your mom isn't there, your siblings aren't there, your friends aren't there. Being a university student is the perfect time to study abroad. It is the only time where you're gonna have that much free time. As soon as you enter the workforce, your like free time's limited to vacation and the weekends. It's not like I'm ever gonna have the chance to be abroad for 6 months again in my life, to travel and to hang out and to do things. Yes, I was in school. I wouldn't say that as a joke either, depending on your program and how your school does it. That being said, also it is a lot more free time, probably the most free time that you'll ever have until you retire. I think all in all, this experience is life-changing. There's nothing more life-changing than having no real ties to anything and just really having to survive. To be in a totally new environment from no one that you know, and to be without like your support system, it's hard. And I think this is an experience that grows, that grows you. You grow from this experience, and there's nothing better than that. I've had the best time. I've seen so many places. I've experienced so many cultures and had such a great time learning about everything. I'm surprised how much I just didn't know about this country. I've studied this country for years, high school, college, and then like I got here and was like, whoa, I've heard about this, but it's one thing reading about it and then another thing living it, seeing it. The history is everywhere. I really can't say good enough things about it. I feel like I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. Woo. I think no matter what, you should at least entertain the idea as a young college student. Is probably the best time to do it. Or you can be like me and take some extra time so that you can do it when you're older. In conclusion, you need to study abroad. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too rambly and that you kind of understood what I was trying to say. If you didn't, leave any questions down below in the comments and I will answer them, as well as talk about my own study abroad experience in a video to come. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!